Hi, everyone. What a headline, I think, out of today's summit. If there's one headline, one word, it would be electricity.
I think so.
It sounds like something you know a lot about,
bit.
probably more than anyone. You told me that when you started on Wall Street, and we won't say what year that was, but that nobody wanted to do electricity, they all wanted to do tech, and you kind of ended up in this field because it was so unsexy.
Yeah, sometimes in life just swim where the crowd is not going, but I looked up and I said, I think those lights are going to stay on. And I like to say I've never seen my product, electricity, but always going to be here, and huge capital needs, and tech, you know, up and down, up and down. So nice to have some.
Yeah, so here we are. I wanted to talk first about one of the big themes that's been coming through all day, which is demand, and sort of where we think that demand's coming from. We've all heard the president talk about an energy emergency. And this morning, John Ketchum, the CEO of NextGen, said on this stage that he was actually worried about potential energy shortages. So do you share that concern? Is this an emergency? How are you thinking about the unfolding demand situation?
Well, relative to history over the last several decades, the collision of shrinking supply and rising demand has never been as extreme that we have right now. So think about it. Demand has been flat for several decades, 30 years plus. Why? Because any population GDP growth was offset by energy efficiency, right? And we've, you know, maybe there's a little more low-hanging fruit, but not so much on the energy efficiency side of thing. Don't forget, we're still shutting down coal and nuclear. The United States was 70% coal and nuclear. We're now down to about 40% coal and nuclear. Coal is still about 20% of the mix, and certainly it's probably still sliding. Nuclear is very, very old. We all of a sudden love it, but you've got some aged infrastructure. It's not all going to extend its life. So at the worst possible time, where we have shrinking supply, shrinking baseload supply, all of a sudden the demand kicks in. And it's not just AI, right? We certainly think of all the pieces of this, electric vehicles being a piece of it. Bitcoin mining is not small. The load in Texas for Bitcoin mining is more than the entire load of the city of Houston. Onshoring of manufacturing, it's happening. LNG is a big one. People don't talk about LNG. Huge amount of electricity to freeze and liquefy that natural gas, and we know that's a booming piece of the equation. Then we even have certain states, I know New York's a state, that you're not allowed to have natural gas in your home or business anymore. It's got to be electricity. So all of a sudden, not just AI, and everyone thinks it's just AI, all of these pieces of demand at a really tough time. So it's a bit of a collision. So we need new resources quickly.
And you were talking about onshoring. I mean, the president's trying to bring more steel and aluminum manufacturing into the U.S., but that's incredibly energy dependent.
Yeah, and we had a lot of this manufacturing kind of began. Someone told me there's something like 200 manufacturing facilities under construction in the U.S. right now. The CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, did bring a lot of that forward. I don't think we've seen the onshoring from the current administration and tariffs and the like. We certainly expect some of that to come. I think it's good for the economy. We hope it's come, but we got to get moving on new resources getting built quickly.
So earlier today, John Ketchum talked about how many years it takes to build next generation nuclear and some of these other options, and he said, quote, "We will lose the AI race and we will bring this economic expansion in the United States to a screeching halt," he said, "if we take renewables off the table." Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't fully agree on the renewables piece of it, but I agree this is a race around the world, particularly with Asia, of who's going to be the dominant leader in AI. For the United States to grow our way out of this deficit, I think we all know we can't cut our way or tariff our way out of this. We've got to grow our way out of it. What a gift for whoever the president happened to be right now, that AI falls in our lap, and with AI, we need massive amount of new electric generation, and we need a lot more natural gas production to support that. And so that's all there right now. Speed is a big part of it, of making it happen. But I don't know that renewables are the secret to making this happen, mainly because AI, they need what we call 5 nines, 99.999% reliability. They need that electricity round the clock full time. That's not what an intermittent resource does.
Even with battery storage?
Yeah, batteries maybe get you another 4 hours, so we're turning 6 hours into 10 hours. The boom, and this is a very nuanced thing, the hyperscalers, as we call them, the Microsoft, Amazon, Google, OpenAI, Meta, that crowd, they all very much are focused on their footprint, their carbon footprint. Most of them have goals to get to a net zero. So they're going to be buying, and they know it, they're going to be buying a lot of natural gas-fired power generation, which is going to come with CO2 emissions. So they want to buy offsets. So they are heavily investing in renewable projects, not to serve the data center, because it's just not a great resource for a data center, but to create the offset. We call them virtual PPAs. They might invest in a solar field in Colorado and earn the credits that way to offset all of the natural gas-fired generation that they're going to be buying.
So if I could just play devil's advocate on the AI data center question for a moment. We saw the arrival of the Chinese AI model, right, DeepSeek, which kind of rocked the tech and energy worlds because it was much more efficient than anyone expected the technology to be. And obviously, innovation can move very quickly. Do you think that changes the picture? Are we being a little bit alarmist, maybe, about AI?
No, I think it rocked things for about a day and a half. And then we had companies like Microsoft and Meta come out with their capital budgets for AI spending, especially here domestically, and they increased their budgets. So the capital is flowing. The adoption rate is expanding. There are a lot of questions around what is DeepSeek and all the like, but just look at what's happened since then. Not a blip in terms of a slowdown in terms of that capital. And with all of that capital leads to more urgency for electricity and electricity now. What they're looking for is speed. Get me electricity in 2 to 3 years. So they're signing contracts right now for that. They are looking for a size. 50, 100 megawatts isn't going to do it for them. They're 500, 1,000 megawatt type projects. And concentration. We want them in the proper regional centers, around the proper population centers. And so there's a mad race out there of power developers, data center developers working with the hyperscalers to make this happen.
And so where's the smart money going to go? Which kinds of energy do you see?
Yeah, well, I call it the pot of gold right now is to land a 10-year plus contract with some of the best balance sheets in the world, right? The Microsofts of the world are willing to pay a premium price, and to give you term, to give you 10 years plus, if you can meet those 3 things they want, right? I said speed, get me the electricity quickly, get it in a meaningful size, and get it in the concentrated location that I want. And so there's a mad dash of who can put those pieces together. You certainly need capital, but the tricky piece is electricity. And there's a lot of know-how that goes into the electricity. And some folks have sites and have projects that are nearer term than others. But that's really where I think electricity, and it's going to be dominated by natural gas, because natural gas is the here and now. We can get that 5 nines reliability for it, and I know we may get into the price of natural gas, but still a relatively cheap resource.
Well, speaking of natural gas, we heard earlier on the stage from Avik Dey, and he's the CEO of Capital Power Corporation, and he said this so delicately, I love it. He said the rise of AI will require, quote, the adjustment of policy objectives. And I think he was trying to say that that the rise of these AI data centers are incompatible with net zero, with reducing climate emissions. What is your take on sort of how we should be approaching climate going forward?
Well, I think the all of the above may very well apply here. So when we're talking about that electron directly going to serve that data center so that it can run around the clock, that's probably going to be a lot of it. We use the term behind the meter, co-located natural gas-fired generation. But these hyperscalers very much do care about what that footprint is. And so I think the investment in renewables is actually going to accelerate to create the offset for that. We're seeing the acceleration. We have 30 states that have renewable mandates. I don't see that going away. I think Amazon is now the largest buyer of renewable power, so the corporate demand
So it's
for
corporate,
renewables.
it's state, maybe not so much federal.
No, a small military bases, but don't forget retail. And there's states where retail consumers can choose your electricity supplier. I think the numbers are something, if given the choice, something like 25% of retail consumers will choose green. So we have that there. And then don't forget about nuclear. We just saw last week an announcement, Constellation selling an Illinois nuclear plant, selling the output to Meta. But the nuance there, that output is not going to serve a data center. Right, it's a virtual PPA. It's an offset.
Oh, interesting.
Because
Okay.
it's green, and it's an offset because they certainly know that they're going to be buying a lot of gas.
So they're putting it into the grid and they're taking something.
Yeah, so I think these hyperscalers, we've got to keep coming back to that. They care about their footprint. So you're going to see the acceleration of purchasing green electricity, being renewables and being nuclear. It's going to be a long time before we have the next generation built of nuclear plants. But we do have some capacity out there in the marketplace that they can
Well, sort of
purchase
on
from.
that point, another theme today has been the mega bill. Obviously a lot of clean energy tax credits were stripped out of the House version. Curious what your take is on the version that passed the House. Do you have any concerns about the current state of that legislation?
Yeah, I think it needs some cleaning up and needs some fixes. Provision that things have to be under construction within 60 days. I mean, that's just not a feasible provision on it. I think from an investor point of view, I just want stability. Tell me what the rules are, and then I'll price my investments. And by the way, subsidies for renewable power don't make my returns higher. That makes the price of electricity lower. It may make your taxes higher, it may make budget deficits higher, but it brings electricity prices down. I'm not going to just say, oh, I'll take a lower return because there's a subsidy in that mix. But I think so what's challenging when the government comes forward and says we want to encourage a certain behavior and we're going to give you a tax credit to encourage that behavior, and then the rug is pulled out from under you 3 years in, 4 years in, you're half built, you've put a lot of development capital. The next time the government comes forward in another industry, I don't know, it could be the healthcare industry, and we have these wonderful tax credits and we want to encourage investment, it's going to be hard to believe that the carpet's not going to be yanked out. So I'm more in the camp that we can have a phase out, over the next 5 years or so, but not so abrupt that is in the current version.
Well, on this point of stability, we just heard a few, conversations ago, Neil Chatterjee, the former FERC chair, he was very concerned about the administration taking control of FERC, the agency, and also just the future stability of the regulator. He said he didn't want to see FERC become politicized like the EPA and create a lot of pendulum swinging every time the administration changes. I'm just curious what you thought of his remarks and your thoughts on.
Well, I'm back as an investor. I'm back to stability and perhaps speed. And obviously, this current administration is talking a lot about deregulation and moving things along quickly. Building a power plant from the local, the state, the federal, the environmental, oh my goodness, it is difficult. It takes a very long time horizon to get that done. And I think there's a desire in the current administration. We are trying to grow the economy. We've got $37 trillion of debt. We need to grow GDP. We have an enormous opportunity for trillions of dollars of capital investment in AI, in power generation, and in large part natural gas production to support it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's not have another technical conference and have a debate of front of the meter, behind the meter, co-located. Let's go. And I think there's a lot of us in industry, a lot of us investors. What an opportunity for this country to lead into AI. Let's go. And I think I'd rather see speed and moving forward and pick a path rather than months and months and months of discussion. So I think there's some frustration out there that maybe wasn't brought up in that last conversation of all well-intentioned and this debates of consumer protection and reliability and policy, but sometimes we talk about things a bit too long rather than action.
Well, I know our timer's running down, but just one final question, which is, as an investor with this much money at stake, and you've got investors from all over the world coming into your funds, what is the most important thing you're watching out of Washington right now?
Look, it is, I try not to read the newspapers too much. There's a lot of rhetoric out there, and, we want some degree of stability. There will be a bill, and I have a strong opinion there'll be a bill, and when that bill comes out, we'll evaluate it, and we'll then price our investments appropriately. There's so much angst right now of what it might be. Just be patient, everybody, and the rules will be there. We just want rules. And I think over the coming months, we're going to have some nice rules, and we'll have some new faces at the FERC, and that'll allow us to price our investments. Capital can walk away, right? We don't have to do this. Capital can go anywhere in the world, can go to any industry. And it will sit on the sidelines if there is too much instability, too much uncertainty from a policy perspective.
Excellent. Well, on that note, thank you so much.
Oh,
and thank you to our audience.